I was 29 when my husband's will was read. People like to imagine those rooms are heavy with grief. Ours wasn't. It felt like a business meeting that happened to include a widow. I barely remember the lawyer's polished desk. I remember the silence after he announced that the mansion would pass to my husband's longtime companion. His mistress smiled before anyone else spoke. My father-in-law didn't look surprised, neither did my sister-in-law. Their calm hurt more than the words themselves. It meant they had known about her long before I had. Then came my name, the cottage on Ash Creek Road. The lawyer slid over a single key. "That's all?" I asked quietly. Before he could answer, my father-in-law leaned back with a tired sigh. "Be grateful," he said. "At least you got something." No one argued with him. I picked up the key and left. The drive to Ash Creek took almost an hour. The farther I drove, the smaller the road became until pavement turned to gravel. The cottage sat alone beneath old oak trees, its porch sagging just enough to make me wonder if it was even safe. It looked exactly like the kind of place someone gives away because no one else wants it. I unlocked the front door. The smell surprised me first. Not mold. Fresh cedar. Someone had been preserving the place. Inside, sunlight spilled across handmade shelves lined with notebooks, neatly labeled boxes, and woodworking tools polished from years of use. My knees weakened. This wasn't abandoned. It had been waiting. I found an envelope on the kitchen table. It simply read, "For Emma." My husband never called me anything else. Inside was a letter. He admitted that he had hidden this place from nearly everyone, including his family. Not because he didn't trust me, he wrote, but because he didn't trust the people who believed everything could be measured in market value. He apologized for leaving me with questions instead of answers. "I know you'll probably hate me for the secrets," he wrote. "But if you're reading this, it means everyone chased the obvious prize." I kept reading long after the daylight faded. The notebooks documented 15 years of custom furniture commissions. Every client, every payment, every design was carefully recorded. Then I noticed something else. The final folder wasn't about furniture. It contained ownership records, contracts, and licensing agreements. The cottage wasn't simply a house. It belonged to a small woodworking company he had quietly built alongside his business partner. The workshop, equipment, and intellectual property had all been transferred into a trust connected to this address years before his death. The mansion had prestige. This place had purpose. Still, letters weren't enough. The next morning, I contacted the attorney listed in one of the files. Unlike the tense atmosphere of the will reading, his office felt methodical. He read every document without interruption, occasionally comparing signatures and registration numbers. Finally, he looked up. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "these documents appear valid, but I'll confirm everything through the registry." For 3 days I waited. I slept in the cottage, sweeping floors, opening dusty windows, and discovering pieces of the man I'd thought I knew. He had spent weekends here designing tables by hand. He'd written pages about craftsmanship, about patience, about building things meant to outlast pride. There was almost nothing about money. When the attorney called, his voice was calm. "The registry has verified everything." That single sentence shifted the ground beneath me. The trust had been properly recorded years earlier. The business, its contracts, and future royalties belonged entirely to me. No one could contest it. The law had already spoken. A week later, my father-in-law called for the first time since the funeral. His tone was different, less certain. He asked if we could talk as a family. I thanked him for checking on me. Then I said I was busy. Not to punish him, simply because it was true. The workshop had orders waiting. Months passed. I never returned to the mansion. Sometimes I wondered whether my husband had underestimated me by believing I needed to be protected from the truth. Sometimes I wondered if he had simply run out of time before he could explain everything. I still haven't answered those questions. Grief doesn't disappear because paperwork turns in your favor. But every morning I unlock the workshop instead of mourning what I never truly had. The cottage no longer looks forgotten. It looks lived in. People driving past probably still assume it's just an old shack on the edge of town. I let them. I've learned that appearances are often the cheapest thing anyone owns.